Today we are talking about literature review. This is the first lecture of so many lectures to come. Literature review. What is it? What is literature review? It is the synthesis, the review, the reading, the analysis of different books, articles, newspapers. You can name it. That relates to your topic. What we are saying is in literature review, you are reading publications. You are synthesizing publications, topics, concepts, and theories which addresses your topic. That's what you're doing. You can take example of COVID. When you are studying about COVID, we are expecting you to read so many articles. Where did it start and all other stuff. And at the end of the day, you synthesize them. We are going to talk more about synthesis because most of students they find it challenging to synthesize different reading in literature review. Literature review consists of two parts. It's very important for you to know this because most of the students, when you write your literature review, you send it to your supervisor. The supervisor says, no, it's not enough, go and write again, because you have not addressed the two important parts of a literature review. The first part that consists of your literature review is conceptual or theoretical framework. For master's student, normally you join these two parts together in one chapter. But for PhD, we encourage the students to have a separate chapter for these two parts. So the conceptual framework, what are you doing in that conceptual framework? First of all, you are analyzing, or you are explaining, or you are outlining, or you are stating your theory, what you want to use. If you are using the social learning theory by Nelson Bandura, for example, in education, you need to outline it, you need to explain to us so that we know, so that your readers understand what the theory is all about. Then when you finish that, you need to apply your theory to your study. When you are applying your theory to your study, you need to consider the topic. You need to consider the objectives. You need to consider the research problems. You need to consider the questions. You need to consider the scope of your study. You need to consider the methodology, which is down the paradigm. It's the design, how you are going to sample, how you are going to analyze your data. So a good theoretical framework link perfectly, or it's a good fit to all those components making your study. Then literature review as well consists of the review of related literature, which is the second part. So the second part, we want you to review studies that are happening somewhere, other countries, studies that are happening within your region, within your country, within your province. Tell us the findings, the recommendations that have happened. So that is the second part of your literature review, and this second part is mainly guided by your objectives, by your research question. So in a way, it's a good way of answering some of your research questions. Then for qualitative and quantitative versus quantitative literature review, both qualitative and quantitative research consist of the two parts. However, what you need to master now is how do we apply these two parts in these two different qualitative research design. I have tried to illustrate here with a diagram. The first diagram that you see is the qualitative diagram, the triangles. I have got two triangles. You're going to see the triangles more in these discussions, because the explaining the triangles will actually help you to understand. So qualitative, the top part is the finding, and the bottom part is the literature. And the qualitative, a good qualitative study use an inductive approach. You start from a finding, then you go into literature. That's a good qualitative study. And a good quantitative study start from literature review. You start from a deductive, you start from a general level, What are people saying? What has been studied? What has been recommended? What has been found already by other scholars? Then you zero in to your findings. That's a good quantitative. That's the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Let's just write. Let's talk about qualitative in detail a bit. If you're writing qualitative research, we expect to see conceptual framework, which is the part one of your literature review. Conceptual framework, detail your conceptual framework, what you are using, outline it, then apply it to your study. Then immediately from there, you go to your methodology. The reason why we go to the methodology, the conceptual framework is good enough to inform you on the type of questions to choose or on your methodological plan. A good conceptual framework does that purpose. Then from there, you go straight away into the field. You're going to research. Come, you analyze your data, you present your findings. Then once you have presented your findings, then we now expect you to do literature review. And your literature review is guided by the findings that you got. Then from there, discussions and the findings. So qualitative uses inductive. You start from a finding, then you go into literature. You go from a particular, then straight away into a broader literature that addresses or that talks about your study. Then quantitative is the direct opposite of qualitative. So what are we doing here? We are starting from our theoretical framework. We want to see the theoretical framework. Then explain to us how you want to use it. Then from the theoretical framework, then you can go to your literature review. Then from literature review, you go to your methodology. Some students who are clever enough, they will explain how they're gonna use their theoretical framework in the methodology, so that there is a flow between the theoretical framework into literature review. Because don't forget, when you're writing, you should write as if you are writing a story. So there should be a flow, there should be a logical flow between your topics, between your concept as you develop them. So then from the literature review, you write your methodology, then you go, you research, then you come back, you analyze, you present your findings, then you go to the discussion, then into your conclusion. Most studies that I have seen for qualitative, they use this approach. They go on literature review. After literature review, they go to methodology. So there is no difference between a qualitative and a quantitative research in those studies. In most cases, I've heard most students saying, I was using mixed method, but I ended up, my supervisor told me to drop so that I use only qualitative. The reason is you would have failed to demonstrate the difference between the two research designs, between qualitative and quantitative. So you need to, if you are using mixed method, you need to demonstrate them in such a way that the reviewer will tell whenever she is now dealing with the qualitative, and when she's dealing with quantitative, she needs to also be able to tell the difference. But if she cannot tell the difference, at times she will just say, guys, you did not do any there's no mixed method here. Because most students, they think if you adopt a questionnaire, that's already a quantitative. No, that's not true. That's not the case. Adopting a questionnaire does not make your study quantitative. You can still adopt a questionnaire in a qualitative research. So it's very important for you to know this trick. So this diagram that I have shown you, you need to keep these diagrams so that you don't forget. You don't forget There is a difference between qualitative and quantitative in terms of writing literature. So, and I know qualitative, it's more of a challenge to most people. They think qualitative is the easiest. Most students that I've talked to, they always say qualitative is the easiest method to do, which is the opposite. It's qualitative is the most difficult approach to use, and is the most I'm a data scientist. I said that before, but I prefer a qualitative approach, because in a qualitative approach, that's where you get more. You get more information. You dig more out of qualitative than out of quantitative. So you need to visit Qual for more about on qualitative approach, qualitative design. Thank you so much. I hope this have helped you, and you're gonna use this trick when you are writing your study, and you should know where to start and where to end. Thank you. Enjoy your day.